Well, a brand new AP poll dropped on Monday. Happens every Monday, believe it or not. And there's discrepancy at the top between the AP poll and the selection committee's top 16 reveal. Who got it right?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I am your host, Isaac Schade. Joining me today is our guy, Riley Davis, national college basketball writer for the Field of 68 and Heat Check CBB, co-host of the College Basketball Hangout. If you're not subscribed to the Field of 68 daily and you're a hoops junkie, you, my friend, have missed your calling in life because they put out great stuff every morning. Coming up on pitch.
Appreciate that, Isaac. Appreciate the sorry to interrupt your ad.
No,
I just appreciate you saying that. But yes, please do subscribe, especially because we got a little premium feature going on now. And you know, I have no problem if people want to subscribe to that. So
I'm drinking my morning coffee, reading through the games I was too old to stay up late and watch. So it's good stuff.
Hey, it happens. It happens to me too.
We're going to recap Kansas's gritty win over TCU in Fort Worth on Monday night. Look at a few conference races. But first, as we do on every Tuesday show, some AP poll reaction business. And as I alluded to off the top, we got that top 16 reveal from the selection committee on Saturday that had Alabama at the top, despite their loss to Tennessee midweek last week on Wednesday, while the AP voters resoundingly boosted Houston back into the number one spot in the AP poll. Riley, where are you at on this? My top five this week was Alabama, Houston, this Kansas Jayhawks team, and then Purdue, and then UCLA. I'm right in line with the selection committee. Are we right, or did the AP voters get it right? Speak your truth.
You know, to be honest with you, I have been a loud critic of the AP poll. Honestly, let's be real. I was more loud in my criticism early on in the year when I thought our Tar Heels deserve to be ranked, and that's not the case now. So I've scaled back some of my ire and some of my intentionality with looking through the poll and trying to analyze it. But I kind of agreed they got the top five right. I still love this Alabama team. I think their ceiling is higher than anybody's in the sport. When you look at the number of pros that
everybody, all 363 teams.
Yeah, I think they definitely have the highest ceiling. The Alabama at their best, I think, is better than any team just because you have a future, top five pick, Brandon Miller. And then I think Noah Clowney, Jaden Bradley, and even Rylan Griffin, all those guys are going to be playing in the NBA one day. Griffin probably has the most uncertain NBA future of that group because I think Clowney would probably be a first-round pick this year. Jaden Bradley, I'm guessing, gets drafted if he declares. But Griffin, he's a 6'6" wing who can shoot. There'll be a place for him in the league most likely as assuming that he continues to develop. But beyond them, it's just they got guards for days. They got a veteran in Mark Sears who has tournament experience. People forget he was kind of the second fiddle to Jason Preston when Ohio beat Virginia 2 years ago in the NCAA tournament. Anyway, all that is to say is I've been enamored with this Alabama team kind of from the start of the year. Yet I kind of think Houston's more deserving of the number one right now just because they've been so consistent. Even looking ahead to March and at this point in the season, it's tough for me to not let that affect how I view the rankings is kind of thinking who would I say is the safest bet to win a title. And I think for anybody out there, I know you'll be filling out your brackets 3 weeks from now, but store away this little nugget of information. Kelvin Sampson in Houston is to the Elite Eight. That's a free space. They're going to do that every year. They're going to be an Elite Eight team from now until you see any signs of.
Yes.
Yeah, right. It's just the style they play with, how tough their defense is to score on. They get extra possessions with offensive rebounds. And this year, I think they're not a great shooting team, but they got enough guys who can make a shot to where, I was surprised to see this the other day. They're fourth nationally in adjusted offensive efficiency per KenPom. You think of them as this gritty team that's going to slow it down and beat you up inside, but they can get a bucket when they need to. So that's
Tennessee. You are.
What'd you say?
They are not Tennessee.
Yeah, right. Yeah, anything that you would have said about the teams Houston, UConn, Virginia, those defensive-minded teams, like those are 100% true about Tennessee. That team's offense is volatile to make a little pun there, but Houston is not one of those. Like the guard play between Schade and Sasser. There's a lot of talk out there about best backcourts in the country, but that might get my vote. So
yeah, let's not sleep on those two dudes. It's something special. And we often talk about the teams that are going to be the best teams are teams that have guys that could have gone to the draft that choose to come back. And that would certainly be true, not of just Sasser or just Schade, but both of them. And so that's a big win for Kelvin Sampson. And I think going back to Alabama, a great point you bring up there, Riley, is there's so much talk about Brandon Miller, and deservedly so. But I think it has caused a lot of people to overlook some of their other dynamic talents and other dynamic freshmen. And so let's just make sure you're looking at that whole roster because it is legit. Now, something else about the AP poll, Riley, is we saw Purdue drop all the way down fifth. I didn't think, like you talked about your criticism of the AP. I didn't think AP voters would be, frankly, willing to drop them that far, but they did. And so I mean, were you shocked to see them fall to fifth?
Not entirely. Just looking at UCLA has been tested less for sure. I think that's one of the maybe the biggest surprise that jumps them, but I think UCLA is a legit team as well. And with Purdue, part of why I think it could be justified is some of the cracks in the freshman guards are starting to show.
That's right.
I can't remember if I've said this on here before, or maybe I've said it on like one of our Heat Check podcasts, but I wouldn't say Zach Edey is a point forward by any stretch, but how much attention he commands with like the double teams, triple teams, and his ability to pass out of those. It's like he creates looks for his teammates. And I think Purdue, they're a cerebral team. They make smart passes. And because of their ball movement, plus just this unique 7'4" behemoth in the middle has like allowed them to skate by with and cover up some of these flaws with these freshman guards. And, both Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, I think they've far exceeded any expectations I had going into the season. And both of those dudes are going to be incredible multi-year college basketball players. If let's say Zach Edey decides, let's say Purdue doesn't win it all this year, and Edey decides he wants to run it back one more, look out for both those guards in their sophomore year. But again, that's next year. And yeah, I just think like some of their, I'd have to look at the numbers, but against Maryland, actually Braden Smith was pretty good at that game, but Lawyer went 2 for 9. Game before at Purdue, Lawyer went 1 for 6, had 2 turnovers. Braden Smith had 3. I guess that's not that many in the grand scheme of things, but dealing with the pressure of some vets like Boo Buie and Chase Audige at Northwestern, it seemed to bother both of those guys.
Yeah. And I think probably the bigger point is like the Purdue guys have been solid. They have, as you said, started to show some cracks. That's been my biggest concern about Purdue all year, and especially as we get into March. Can they hold up for 6 straight games to run to a national championship? But when I think about them as compared to a backcourt you just mentioned with Marcus Sasser and Jamal Schade, I'm rocking with Houston every day in that. We think about a team like Baylor, another team that gets a lot of backcourt love. Listen, Braden Smith, Lawyer, great dudes. But I'm taking LJ Cryer, Adam Flagler, and Keontae George over them every day of the week. And again, it's not any knock. They're just not as elite, and they're not as seasoned as some of those other elite backcourts around the nation. And so I think that is certainly something for us to keep our eye on as we go forward. Well, Riley Davis, we want to get into unpacking the massive Big 12 game from Big Monday on Monday night. Kansas keeps things rolling. It's insane there in Fort Worth. We'll talk about that in just a second. But first, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Are you looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories? Then you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays a little bit ago, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year, which I, by the way, am failing at miserably right now. If you're like me and you want to do that without sacrificing the taste, then I've just got the thing for you, and it is Built Bar. What makes it so good? Well, first off, Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Plus, they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, yes, that sounds incredible. Also, I'm not sure how Built does it, but they come in with those amazing flavors and still maintain great macros. Listen to this: 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, and yet 17 grams of protein. Perhaps best of all, now you don't have to wait for a delivery to come from built.com because they carry these bars at Walmart and Sam's Club. So head on down, get you a 4-count box at Walmart, or if you got a big old cheaper by the dozen family, go ahead and get you the bulk size box at Sam's Club. You won't be disappointed. Built Bar, a proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. Okay, Riley, Kansas Jayhawks following up that massive comeback against Baylor on Saturday. What an epic that was. Follow it up by going to Fort Worth, knocking off the Frogs 63-58. Reminder, TCU had trounced Kansas in Lawrence earlier this year at 83-60. This is now the 14th quad one win for Kansas. Second most in the nation is that Purdue team we just talked about with 9. So they're the only team in the nation with double-digit quad one wins. And here's where I want to go back to. Do you remember Kansas had that 3-game losing streak? We were all worried about, oh man, is this going to be the first ever 4-game losing streak under Bill Self? Oh, what's wrong in Kansas? Since then, the Jayhawks are 7-1. All 7 of those are quad 1 victories. 6 of the 7 are quad 1A victories. Riley Davis, what is this Kansas team showing you with what they did in Fort Worth on Monday night?
Yeah, I mean, I'll even start going back to Saturday in Lawrence when I know, like, so they're down, I believe it was 13 at the half. And, you know, the home team's always going to make a rally on their own court. Like that, good teams at home, they're always going to, if they get down big, you can at the very least expect them to make some sort of a run. But the 29-point, like outscoring Baylor by 29 in the second half is frankly unbelievable with how well this Baylor team's been playing. What Keontae George did to Kansas in the first half, like you got a dude who's pulling up, taking heat check threes and had that emphatic dunk in the lane, like over, like. How many times, if you just show me those 2 plays, I would have been like, oh, wow, if Keontae George is doing that, like, and you show me that first half score, it's like, I don't care that it's in Fog Allen. Baylor's winning this game by 15. So I'll even back up to there with how impressive that was for them to rally. But tonight, again, you're seeing them do it with their defense. It is elite. It's a top 10 unit in the country. And it's not just Kevin McCullough and DaJuan Harris who are excelling. Like Harris did about as good of a job on Mike Miles as you can do. He was face guarding him at least late in the game. But I constantly even go back to someone like Gradey Dick, who you assume freshman, white dude, shooter, all 3 of those things, like 3 strikes that you think there's no way this dude's going to be a good defender, but he consistently comes up with smart plays. Yes. Like he has active hands. He's in the right spot. Like there's, I want to say there's less than a minute left in the game. And DaJuan was guarding Mike Miles, and Miles drives to the lane. So KJ Adams is the initial help defender who comes over, but even like forces a tough shot, but Gradey Dick slides over to add to the contest, and I think he came up with the rebound as well. It's like little things like that to where you would have thought there's no way this dude makes plays like that if you just looked at him. But yeah, it speaks to the buy-in they have, the scheme that Self has built there. And like, I mean, again, yet another masterful coaching year from Bill Self.
And I'm right with you, Riley. That was my biggest takeaway, is this wasn't about Kansas just offensively running TCU off the court. This was a game about their defense. The play, I love that you had that example. The biggest example that stood out to me was there was like 30 seconds left in the game. Damian Baugh's driving. KJ Adams stays with him long enough, just moving his feet, not slapping at the ball, not, whatever, allowing Kevin McCullough to get over it and block his shot. Baugh gets the ball back. And as he tries to go up, McCullough ties him up from overhead, giving Kansas possession back. And they've already got the lead. I mean, it's as you said, it's these little plays that add up to winning plays. And on the road in Big 12 play with like Max Duggan strutting in midway through the second half in the Ducks. Come on. Like not most teams aren't going to walk in and do that. But here Kansas comes, and boy, I mean, that is just a performance. TCU has just been kind of coming back with finally getting Mike Miles back healthy, getting Eddie Lampkin back healthy. Like, dude, that is a big, big win for Kansas there. I love what you said about DaJuan Harris and everything, like, because man, to be able to be such a good two-way player as he is, like to be able to face guard Mike Miles when Kansas is usually switching, right? Pretty much 1 through 5. But also this dude, 8 dimes, 0 turnovers in this game for DaJuan Harris. And I think that's the underappreciated key to this team offensively for me is we think so much about what Jalen Wilson can do offensively or Gradey Dick can do offensively. But man, guards win in March, and DaJuan Harris to me is the playmaking engine that's making this thing go.
And I think even, we talked a lot about how good the defense was. When you look at this offense on paper, yeah, you could say it has like a modern build where you have a bunch of wings and multi-positional defenders, but it is by no means an elite shooting team. Like no one on the team other than Gradey Dick is shooting higher than 34% from 3 on volume. Bobby Pettiford technically is shooting 37.5%, but he's attempted 8.
To your point, they shot 18.8% in this game, by the way. Keep going.
Right. But it's like
from 3 minutes.
But the way they share the ball, I mean, gets a lot of easy looks. They assisted on 19 of their 26 made free throws tonight. That's an assist rate of 73%. And it's not just Wani. I mean, he had 8 assists tonight, like you mentioned, but having someone like Kevin McCullough who's chipped in 3 assists and comfortable with the ball in his hands, it's like, you wonder with someone like Harris, that senior leader who is pass first, seems to relish in that role. I got to think that mentality just becomes infectious among the team to where it's like, if that guy has the ball in his hands and he's always passing up the cliche, good shots for great shots, but not even just that, like he passes his teammates open. Like he sees where they're going to be before they get there and delivers the ball. And if that's his mentality, it's tough to see how that wouldn't rub off on the rest of the team.
I tell you, on paper at the beginning of this season, I did not think this team had a shot at running it back after last year. Riley Davis, as we sit here on the evening of February 20th for February 21st's show, I'm retracting that, boy. I'm not saying Kansas is your repeat national champion, but there's nothing telling me they can't do it. I'll put it that way.
I mean, the only reason why, the only thing that is holding me back is the history of the reigning champs in March, where I can't remember the stat exactly, but it's maybe like one team in the last 10 years has made it to the Sweet 16 who was a reigning champ like the next year. But I mean, they're going to be a 1 seed. Like there aren't a lot of good 8 seeds out there.
Yeah. To that point, it was interesting. Fran Fraschilla said on the broadcast, I don't know if you heard this, that he believes if Kansas wins out and wins the Big 12 tournament, that they're the number 1 overall seed. Now, by virtue of just who you've beaten in quad 1 games, I see that. Do you think that's enough to bump them? Like, what if Kansas wins out, Alabama wins out, and Houston wins out? Does Kansas leapfrog TCU those other 2 teams into the overall number 1 spot?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like with the amount of Q1 wins they would have, I would assume that if they went out, they're going to have the most in the country. I think I feel like really for the last, 5 years, I'm no bracketologist. I know you had my heat check cohort, Lucas Harkins, on. Fun fact about Lucas, I texted him last year and said, how does one get into bracketology? And his answer was, well, first you have to have no life. So that was where I was like, all right, I'm out on that. Like, don't want to work that hard on bracketology, but
is that considered that you do have a life? I think that's what just happened there, Riley.
Well, it was a humble brag, but Lucas knows I love him and I give him a hard time for quote unquote having no life. He does have a life. I think he grinds on college hoops a little more than I do. So
it's good stuff.
But anyway, like I think back to, I think it was 2018 when UNC had 10 losses in the regular season and we were a 2 seed because we had like an insane amount of Q1 wins. Imagine that, North Carolina having a bunch of Q1 wins. But that was when it hit me that like, it seems like the committee pays way more attention to who you beat than who you lose to, unless you got like a couple Q4 losses on your resume.
Exactly.
So that's where I think like if Kansas wins out, they got a great shot to get that number 1 overall seed. But it also, I do kind of wonder, like every year, I've never been able to tell how much the committee weighs conference tournaments though. That would be my only I guess pushback to what Fraschilla said.
Yeah. But. And part of that too, because I mean, one of the others in contention for that, actually, Both the other two in contention for that right now. Alabama, the SEC championship is on Sunday afternoon. And if I'm thinking right, the AAC championship in Houston is Sunday afternoon as well. And so as you just mentioned, a lot of times it seems like the committee doesn't even necessarily use all those contingency plans they have available to them. So
it shouldn't be that hard. Like, I don't want to rant about this, but it's like, this is your job. Consider the Sunday games.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that your metrics are that messed up or your criteria is that messed up by a couple games.
Yeah.
So
crazy stuff. All right. Last thing very quickly. Worst court, TCU or Oregon? Who's got the uglier home court?
I kind of like TCU's home court.
Nice.
But I've always liked TCU's jerseys in both football and basketball, so I got a little bias there. I think purple, black, silver, red, that's just like a underrated combo of those four. So I think Oregon's
sneaking in. The red,
yeah, I like little red accents are pretty cool. But yeah, so I'd say Oregon has a pretty ugly court. But how about you? What do you think?
I'm actually curveball. Memphis. That court drives me banana whackers. It's all like, I don't know. I can't deal with it.
I get why people hate it. I don't know. I don't think it's the worst. I at least like that it tries to be unique, even if the execution's like a D.
Oh, man, that's great stuff there. Well, we want to take a look at some of these conference races. Where does the Big 12 conference race stand now after this game? As well as I know Riley's got some thoughts about Northwestern giving Purdue a push. We'll look at some of that here in just a second. But first, this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs, with which you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve those goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract and identify the most qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools and then connecting with them fast and for free. Plus, LinkedIn makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your qualifications, all right there on one platform. You want to achieve your business goals in 2023, and the right new team member might be the key to help you do just that. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. So once again, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free right now at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Legal mumbo jumbo and all of that good stuff. Riley Davis, you know what's up there. Couple conference races. Let's see how many of these we can get to. I want to start with the Big 12 because that's what we've been talking about a lot tonight. Following Kansas victory over TCU, the Jayhawks hold a half-game lead over Texas. So Kansas 11-4, Texas 10-4, although they are hosting Iowa State tonight, Tuesday, looking to knot it back up. Baylor, game back at 9-5, K-State and Iowa State 8-6, and then TCU falls to 7-8. Got to think that conference record would be better with a healthy Mike Miles all season long, but it is what it is. Riley, I mean, it seems to me like the top of the Big 12 is a three-team race at this point between Kansas, Texas, and Baylor. As I look at their closing stretch of all three of these teams, I mean, it really seems to set up for Kansas to just kind of run away with this thing. They've got three games left. They host West Virginia, they host Texas Tech, and then close out at Texas, while Texas and Baylor both have a little bit more of that typical Big 12 gauntlet still. On paper, this is Kansas' conference to lose. What do you think?
I agree with you on that. I think of those three, Texas is the one who I believe has the hardest schedule, just having to go at Baylor, at TCU. Whereas with Baylor, like their only two road games left are against Kansas State and Oklahoma State. And I know K-State still is a good team. Don't get me wrong. No,
yep.
Yeah, that's where like they're kind of trending in the wrong direction right now. I don't know, maybe a little bit of regression to some of the expectations that were had preseason. I know they got a pretty good win over Iowa State this weekend, but kind of got handled at Oklahoma. And I know Texas Tech's playing better, but like losing by 8 there, you can't really do that if you want to be taken seriously in the Big 12. So I think Baylor has a good chance to go on the road and get a win in Manhattan, even though that's a wild environment. Whereas, yeah, with Texas, just asking them to I mean, Kansas has a really good shot to win out, and asking Texas to be able to get one of those Baylor TCU wins, which they would need going into that Kansas game. Maybe they can get one. Maybe they catch TCU on a little off night as they integrate Mike Miles, but I don't know. I mean, that's another week from now, and TCU should be a little bit back to normal by then.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it seems like the more logical thing is not a question about number one. It seems like Kansas should hold on to that. The question probably perhaps more is based on schedule. Can Baylor leapfrog Texas for the number 2 seed in the Big 12 tournament? And as you said there, I think it sets up schedule-wise better for Baylor than that Texas gauntlet. I mean, that is a rough go of it.
Yeah, that Texas Tech loss that Texas had, I mean, that's really hurting them right now because that was sort of their free space to, you get one of that. You can drop both those.
Baylor and TCU.
Yeah, right. And you still have a chance to beat Kansas when they wait, I've missed that one. Is Fog Allen? Or no, that's in Austin. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's in Austin to close the regular season. Should be a fun game. Unfortunately, it just does, like, I would love it if that was for the Big 12 regular season title. If things play out like they look like on paper, it just probably won't be the case. However, for me, for all three of these teams, watch out come March in the NCAA tournament because they all have great talent and should do very well. Riley, let's get to the Big Ten, where it seemed just a couple weeks ago, Purdue had this 3-game lead in the conference standings. And a couple of teams, they're in battling for second place. But the conversation wasn't about who could win the regular season because it was Purdue's. It's who's going to finish second. But legitimately, there is a world now in which Northwestern could hop up there. Do you see that possibly happening?
All right, so
not enough tracks left for the train to go on to make it, but
right. Yeah, I mean, so I love this Northwestern team. I think their win at Purdue, where I mean, Chase Audige was harassing Zach Edey down the stretch. Every time I watch this man play, he's getting a steal. Like, Zach Edey turned the ball over. I think it was 3 straight possessions with under a minute left. Like, that was really his biggest blunders of the year so far, and Audige at least got one of those, maybe another one. So yeah, like watching the way they play defense, they switch a lot of ball screen actions. Like they got guys who can guard multiple positions, and both Audige and Bowie, like super active hands. That defense, I think, gives them such a high floor. But the offense is still a little bit hit or miss. They're still like barely top 100 on KenPom. If you look at even in their conference games, there's a lot of games where they're still scoring in the 50s, but just holding teams to like 51 or something. But then again, like their assist rate is top 50 nationally. Boo Booey's another one of those guys, like I mentioned with DaJuan Harris, who passes the rock, and it seems to be infectious for his teammates. And yeah, he's having an incredible year. Is just a certified hooper, and I think, gives Jalen Pickett a run for his money as the best point guard in that league. So give me Bowie just because I think he's more fun. Like Jalen Pickett's got that old man game where he's posting guys up, where Boo Bowie's hitting step back threes. Like, give me Boo Bowie. But yeah, the only thing that what is working against Northwestern to catch Purdue, they got a really freaking tough schedule. They still got to go at Illinois, at Maryland, and at Rutgers. And home game against Penn State, they should win that one. They got the bodies to throw at Pickett, but yeah, those 3 road games, I mean, if they want to, like, especially compared to what Purdue has, where they get Indiana at home, they get Illinois at home, and their only road game is at Wisconsin, who kind of stinks. Like, yeah, Purdue should win those 3 games.
Yep.
So they're gonna need the Hoosiers to help them out some if they want to catch Purdue.
We do. Yep. Well, the good news for Chris Collins' team, they are going to make their second ever NCAA tournament, barring, they might even be a lock, even barring a complete collapse here. But Riley, quick one to 2 sentence answers here from both of us. ACC, can Miami overcome Virginia in the regular season to win the conference?
I need to look at their schedules, but my gut says yes, because I think Miami's the best team in the ACC.
Yep.
And they got to go.
That's the bigger question. Yeah.
They got 3 dubs coming up, going at Virginia Tech, who's done. Florida State at home, awful. They're going to win that game by 30. and then Pitt at home. Pitt will give them a game, but yeah, Miami should win that game.
Yep. I think so too. And for me, regardless of whether Miami, it's the same thing. Are there enough tracks left for the train to catch up there? Regardless, I trust Miami infinitely more in the NCAA tournament than I do Virginia. Finally, we've got this 4-team race in the Big East. Wild. Marquette at 13-3, and then Xavier, Providence, Creighton, as we record, all tied at 12-4. All things being equal schedule-wise, which of these 4 teams do you trust more to win the Big East regular season?
Oh, man, I'd probably lean Creighton just because I think they have the best balance of both offense and defense. Golly, how's this for a stat? Like the Big East with 5 of the 26 best offenses in the country per Kim Palm.
That's ridiculous.
It's a lot of aesthetically pleasing basketball. Like
it is.
That Marquette Xavier game, even though the score was only in the 60s, but it still was like such a delight to watch just because it's good ball movement, guys moving around with purpose, making big shots. So, but yeah, I think I know Creighton is currently one game behind Marquette right now, or a half game. Yeah, they're 1 game behind. But yeah, they get Marquette tonight on Tuesday. And I think their schedule shakes up pretty nicely as well with Villanova, Georgetown, DePaul following Marquette. Like 3 dubs, that needs to be 3 wins, or like Kalkbrenner has mono again. Like that's the only way they're not getting those 3 wins.
That's right. Yes, it is. To Riley's point, it is another great Tuesday night slate of college basketball. Make sure you folks are dialed in on that. I'm all on board the Creighton train too. What a great story that is, coming back from that 6-game losing streak, getting Kalkbrenner back healthy, and being able to do this thing would be a great win for the Blue Jays to pull that off. Great show today, folks. Such a fun conversation with Riley. Big thanks to him for diving in on the show. You can follow all his great stuff at Riley_Davis3 on the Twitter machines. You can follow me at Isaac Schade. Make sure you check us both out on there. Also, please make sure to subscribe to the show on YouTube. It's just like 3 months old, and it just hit 500 subscribers already. Great to see how it's growing. Thank you to all of you who have dived in on that already. Smash the like button. Leave some great comments on your thoughts on these conference races. We would love to hear your thoughts as well. As always, my apologies to the lawyer family, and until tomorrow, peace.